Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. And for today's episode, we have something pretty special lined up for you. We are going to give you a sneak peek at one of our Summit Talks sessions. That's right. We have our Summit Talks Summit going live, and I want to give you a sneak peek at it. So you're going to get the audio version of this episode, but what I want you to do is make sure you head over to summittalks.online to get access to all of the amazing Summit Talk sessions and video sessions waiting for you over there. So in the meantime, enjoy this audio version of another amazing Summit Talks. Post-summit partnerships are one of the most powerful return on investments from a virtual summit. But how do you do it right? Well, our next guest had over 40 speakers agree to speak on his summit, and then he used that to crush his post-summit projects. If you want to know how to get speakers who will partner and build success after your summit ends, then this session is for you. Hey there, Summit hosts. I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software, CEO of Viral Summits, and your host here on Summit Talks, the largest, most impactful virtual summit for summit hosts. Now, we're in for a treat in this session. Get your pen, get your paper, because we're going to be doing a deep dive into a pretty epic summit with a good friend of mine. We've got legendary Azul Tarones with us, who is CEO of Authors Who Lead. Now, Azul is a best-selling author. He's a TEDx speaker, and he's got with over 2 million views on that TEDx talk. He also is a book coach to some of the top entrepreneurs, people like Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income, and even some NFL players. Now, he's also the inventor of Pictionary Shares, how to get high-profile speakers. So I'm excited for this session. You should be excited for this session. Azul, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. It's a thrill.
We're going to have some fun. I'm excited to be connecting with you. Just a fun fact, me and Azul were neighbors for a short bit there in Puerto Rico. We had some interactions there, and I'm excited to have you on here sharing your wisdoms. He's also an incredible coach to authors, helping people get their books out there. He's doing some amazing things, and I think we're going to see a little bit of that inside of the summit too. So before we jump into all of the summit goodness, though, Azul, would you take a few moments and just tell our summit hosts a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. So I spent most of my career, like many of the people who've made their shift to entrepreneurship, as a principal, a teacher. I was a university instructor for 8 years. And started to want to make a leap outside of the world of traditional teaching to work online, so I could have my freedom and travel the world, work remotely, all the things that I had learned from people that could do if you built a business. So in 2014 is when I really started my entrepreneur journey, and fortunately enough, realized that writing a book, though it was hard for me, I'm dyslexic. I barely could read at third grade. I flunked freshman English at UCLA, and all of that, became an English teacher and started teaching. But what was fascinated by that is that because I couldn't see the words the way my peers could, I became really good at seeing the messages. So people started to come to me early on when they found that I wrote a book about how did you get your book done in 30 days? How did you find the message? And so people reached out and said, well, if you could do it, could you help me? And my belief was I could help anybody because I spent my years working with anybody that would walk through the door as a teacher. So that's where I started becoming a book coach and started making my way in the world.
Oh, I love that. That's an excellent one. Fun fact, my grandfather was a professor of English at a college, and my mother is an English teacher right now. So I've gotten some ridicule from the family over my grammar and my speech, but we'll leave that for another conversation. Right. Amazing. Well, Azul, I'm so thankful to have you here with us, and I'm now excited to jump into this summit. and highlight some of the aspects of it. So let's start off first with just kind of an overview of what is the summit, how many days was it, how many speakers. Give us the understanding of what the summit was.
Yeah, so we decided we would do our summit over 5 days, that we would do a live day, so like a day 0, and then we would do a 5-day drip. So we'd give 5 different, value packed days, and we're able to show up live to get them kicked off. So we ran it live for 5 days. We had 35, but at the end of it, we ended up with 40. So we were a little bit pressed. We had to really start them early, and it was really packed. But we had so many great respondents that we didn't want to turn them down. I mean, it just kept getting better and better. So we were grateful, but we were like, we can't keep changing the promo, but we don't want to say no. But the good news is it all fit into 5 days. And that was the goal, intentionally have it for alive for 5 days. And then with the hopes of moving into an evergreen model so that we can continue to provide value for people over time.
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
Wow. Live streaming 5 days. You said up to 40 speakers, right? Is what you were saying?
Yeah. So what we ended up doing was we live streamed our part of it, like the intros, but we ended up recording all of them because part of them was I was in Puerto Rico, and part of them I was in Portugal. And I was like, I can't work on the time frame because I'm not going to be even in the same continent. So we ended up recording them and then doing sort of a live intro for each day so that we could keep it feeling live and interactive. But all of the summit interviews were recorded.
Okay, this is fascinating. We are totally diving into this right here. So I was unaware of this, and this is very interesting. So you actually added a live component, even without it being live at the time. You still were able to stream it live, and you had the sessions pre-recorded. So I know a lot of our summit hosts are interested in putting live components because it increases the engagement. But with that being said, I mean, 5 days, if you were doing, even 5 speakers a day type of deal, that would just your whole day, right? So break that down then. You recorded it. Kind of tell us how you were able to do that. You recorded it, break it down and paint by numbers for me because I'm kind of slow over here.
Right. Right. So what happened was we created a window of time. We said our goal is to record all 35 at a time in 2 weeks. So that was everything else got pushed off the schedule. Podcast interviews, anything, to do back-to-back interviews for 2 weeks straight. But then we realized we had more speakers. So we really had to cram them into more, weekend times, things we weren't expecting because we really wanted to launch live, meaning we had a plan. We wanted to tell people what was happening on this date. Everything had, the date of the event. So we knew we couldn't change anything because we wanted to feel live as we could despite the recording. So once we did that, we had a process. So once we did the live recordings, the interviews, we took the interviews, we had quickly had them transcribed because we were so close to the launch that we had to transcribe them, have them cleaned up. Then we had to take the transcription, have somebody write a part for our playbook, which we can talk about more. So we wanted to put in just enough details so someone could get enticed to pay attention the day that the person they were interested in was going live. So it was moving very quickly, like a process. Like every day was turning over. Okay, interviews today, art this day, transcriptions this day, load it to the playbook this day, and just keep doing that day after day until we could catch up. And it was so close to the day we were launching that I was really worried to say yes to the 5 extra people that agreed. But I didn't want to turn them down either because they're really great, high-profile people that were generous with their time. So that's sort of the way it looked. And then we did the live launch sort of like with us as the founders, talking about what to expect, live on Facebook, live in our groups. That really helped encourage engagement during the actual week that it was live.
Oh, that is great. I can feel that kind of pressure on your back right there. Get this, do that, don't stop. Please let internet not go out today, right? Those type of things that we all worry about when we have a schedule. So yes, I want to dive. I've got more and more questions now. You're giving us so much good insights here, things that a lot of our summit hosts, especially our newer ones, probably haven't even thought about yet because they're not at that point. So this is really great information. I'm going to come back to the transcription aspect, but when you say you recorded the intro and had it live, so the speaker sessions, the interviews were recorded. You did a live stream, for example, you said on your Facebook page and Facebook group. And then when you released the videos, was there a live component that kicked off? Was it the day or an introduction for the session? Talk me through that.
It was for the day. So what we would do is we would do it live, and then we would drop that after it went live. We would drop that live feed into the Summit feed so that it became like if they just joined and they missed it, it felt like it was live, even though if they missed it at the time of the broadcast, they would at least feel like the live, it was, it wasn't rehearsed. It was sort of just fun and more casual, talking about our excitement about everything. So that when they got into day 1 or 2, whatever the day was, it felt like, oh, this is like happening right now, even though it's obvious because now it's a recording. But we wanted it to feel that way for us as we were doing it, instead of, the recording feeling you get when you're really trying to get things right tech-wise. We weren't even worried about the quality of the film. It was shot outside. It wasn't the best sound, but we thought that would feel more authentic than overly producing that introduction. They were short, 15 minutes sometimes, just to get them excited about the day. So we thought we'd try that to see that we could draw people in. And that was something we felt like if we made it more authentic, then maybe they would feel more like, oh, this isn't like this rehearsed thing that they're not going to get value, especially if they didn't know us. That's the thing. If you were from our list, our podcasts, you knew us and you could trust us. But if you were getting cold traffic or people referring them, they don't know who we are. So we wanted them to see our personality a little bit too.
That is so important. I think that's a great lesson here is, with most of the summits, we produce them, we edit the videos, we got the little intro reel that comes in and we make it look super good. But you're right. Where do they actually get to connect with you? Like live streams would be great as well. But as you just mentioned, Azul, what happens about the people who come after it and they miss the live stream? I think that it's really important to let your personality shine through for that connection, which is of course going to help the conversions later on down the road. So that's great. And now I understand much better. Thank you for walking me through that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the transcription because we actually haven't talked about that yet here on Summit Talks. So I think in my opinion, it's kind of it's normal. It's very common. But why don't you walk us through the purpose and how you did that, so we have some references or resources as well.
Yeah. So the main reason we did it was that we wanted to create a playbook that could talk about the person's knowledge base, what they were offering. But we didn't really want to spend time hiring a writer or taking the time to do all this research, write out something. We were just running out of time, to be honest. So we said, if we can transcribe it, we can have it edited down to a manageable, reasonable length and create enough of a hook for them to want to leave the playbook. Because the playbook was another lead magnet. So we said, if they don't log in because they want the summit, maybe they'll download the playbook so that they could, it includes their topic, gives a couple golden nuggets, and then links to the summit. So the playbook is in itself 40 amazing leaders, authors, best-selling authors, experts. But if they found them valuable, they can then jump in the summit. So they can quickly flip through. They didn't have to wait for the summit. And the summit description with 40 people, there's not much you can put without it becoming too much. But the playbook was the way. So the transcription was solving our problem, which is how we're going to get these all done. And we used the transcription service. Now, we wanted to do it more affordably. So something like Rev is useful, but the challenge with Rev is that it requires a live person, and it's $1 a minute, which is not bad for transcriptions, to be honest. But we found that Rev actually owns something called Temi, Temi, Temi.com, and it's actually the same sort of voice to transcription services other big platforms use to transcribe. So it's not perfect, but it's like 95% there. So we knew somebody was editing, so we knew that they didn't need it to be perfect. They needed it wasn't going to go anywhere out into the world. We were going to clean them up and offer it as a bonus inside of the summit, that everyone got the full transcription. So it was a bonus. Then we rewrote them for a playbook. So that was the way we use that too. So, and then we can pull out things to writing copy for the headlines and things like that. So it just provided so much value as well as saving us time.
Yeah. I mean, that is great. So we got Rev and Temi right there as transcription options, services. Very common to have transcripts provided either in your all access pass or as a bonus. So something to consider for all of our Summit hosts out there. And I love this concept of the Summit Playbook. So think of it like a workbook or something that provides guidance for your audience inside or during the Summit. Now, I think it's kind of like this is not as common as the transcripts, I would say. So can you kind of paint, I know you told us it was there to kind of give a little bit more insight into the Summit hosts, or excuse me, into the speakers, but can you kind of talk us through like, well, I'm sure there was something at the beginning, you had a special kind of framework, kind of just talk us through what that looked like and felt like.
Yeah. We wanted them to get to know them quickly because some of our authors may be entrepreneurs and don't know people in the PR world or the fiction world. So we wanted them to quickly be able to recognize their face when they scrolled through, like make the visual connection. So we had the image there. We also wanted to make it easy from the playbook to hyperlink to go to the summit so that if somehow they got the playbook, but they didn't register, that they would go there, or that it would take them directly to their talk on the day their talk was. So if they clicked on it and it had the day of the talk, it said the day of their talk, they click on it, it would hyperlink them to take them specifically to that talk, whether it was live yet or whether it was still being, coming the next day, they could see when it was. So we wanted it to be interactive. The other thing is we wanted to give just enough nuggets from the conversation to see why they were on the panel. For example, we had a woman who wasn't an author. So we wanted to make sure, like, if you're not an author and you're on an author who leads Summit, why would you have this person? So she happened to be somebody worked beyond BR. She was somebody who's behind the scenes that make people big, like Simon Signet, Britney Spears, Pitbull. She was the one that made the magic happen. And she talked about how people are made purposely famous and how fame happens. She says everybody who makes these people famous aren't Googleable. So she was like an insider. No one could, most people can't find these people who make the handlers for the people who create publicity, not PR, but like the actual, the person become famous. Those people were kind of hidden too. So I wanted them to know why she was on the summit, why she was there, that she was building a fame for people who are ordinary, because that's how everybody starts. So those kind of things with just enough interest, be like, ooh, I'm kind of interested now that I know a little bit about this person, and I'd love to know when she is. And so they didn't have to look for it. They could see the time there and actually hyperlink right to that session. So they sort of like a playbook, like when you go to a play or something where you're flipping through to see what's happening. We wanted to give that to them ahead of time so that when the summit came, they could mark it. Some people said they printed it out, marked it up what day they wanted to go. They put it on their calendar. So I think it was really useful.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
Well, I know I'm already now. I want to go watch the whole summit just to find out about this woman that you just mentioned. So it is obviously very useful. No, I love that. And so with and another thing with the playbooks, like, so that is a perfect example of why it's also it's added value. It's added support. It increases the value and perception of your summit. Sometimes in our summit playbooks, we'll have some of the topics that are being talked about with like open-ended aspects where they can almost use it like a workbook as well and fill things out, or the resources, like having resources that speakers talked about. Now, to circle back to the transcripts aspect, what Azul was just talking about is having those printed out makes it a lot easier to have somebody go and build out your playbook versus them having to listen to every single session and then trying to find stuff. So that's a really great strategy and tip right there, Azul. Let's kind of jump into a little bit of the challenges. We know I've been hosting summits for 7 years, and I've never had a summit that didn't have some kind of challenge or something unexpected happen. And I haven't talked to a host yet that has had a perfectly seamless, smooth summit. So what was a challenge, or maybe one of the bigger challenges that you experienced during the summit? And what advice could you give our summit hosts?
Yeah. Initially, I thought my challenge would be to get enough people, but then I realized I'm more connected than I thought. So that went away quickly. But for me, it was the tech, because I have a really small team. I work in this with my husband, my partner. He was actually working on a completely another project, so he wasn't completely available. So I had to be able to create a system that made it easy. Like when the the Zoom call was downloaded. It had to go to a Dropbox folder, and someone who knew had to know where to take it and put it. And so one of the biggest challenges was making sure that the tech was working. And I was bouncing Puerto Rico already, the internet can be its thing. But I was also in transit. I was flying. I had only one day to make it to a little village that I stay in Portugal. And our apartment wasn't available for Wi-Fi. So I had to rent an Airbnb. And the Airbnb was basically sharing Wi-Fi like with a next door neighbor. So you can imagine, I have these big authors on and I'm like, there's no light. It's the wrong lights because now we're in Europe. I can't plug them in. I was like, I just went with it. And but that was the biggest challenge was the technology, not so much the back end. We eventually figured out deadline funnels and all the things that make it work, but it was just literally the internet and being able to record these things, without losing the host or the guest.
Yeah, Puerto Rico, we haven't always been known for having the most secure internet in the world. And I lived in Italy for 6 years, so I can understand the stress that can go into trying to do some of this stuff overseas or abroad. So that adds a little extra stress to it. But you were able to make it work and rock it out. And while we're talking about kind of the tech or the landing page, why don't we take a look? We'll pull back the curtains a little bit and see what you got over there with your Summit homepage.
Sure, let's do that. Let's check it out so people can actually see. So here it is. Our brand is pretty simple. It's 2 colors. It's not complex. So we wanted to reflect our brand, and we wanted to make it easier. This is the thing that we keep testing over time after the Summit's live is the content. This is easy to change, but when you're first starting out, you kind of obsessed over the words, and you really can't. So like the first part of it is you've got to make it easy. What do you want them to do? The biggest thing is make them get their free pass to the summit. Make sure that nothing, if they don't do anything, that they click it. And so we've tried to keep it real simple. And the other thing that people told us, they were more interested in seeing the faces of people. So this is something we could even play with now. Like, how do we make these faces bigger without making the words too small? So images of different speakers, we tried moving the images around. We wanted an equal balance of women and men. We were trying to make it work. So our Summit page, we felt like it was clean and simple. We wanted to make sure that people knew that it was online, because a lot of people that are wanting to be authors may not be entrepreneurs. So they might be business leaders, but don't live their world online. So we wanted to make it easy to make it clear this is an event that's online, and that we would give lots of value for joining. So as people started to register, and the other thing is making sure you have really clear reasons why people should join, like the monikers and the social proof was important. And then, what they can expect. There's people that will read every single thing. And there's people then who won't go below this line, that they're just going to click and, they see one person they like and they register. So we wanted the registration button to be as many places as possible and not to be obtrusive, but it's here everywhere. And we wanted to highlight some of the people, both men and women, that we thought that we wanted their audiences to pay attention to. So people that are our partnerships, Pat Flynn agreed to be a partner and help us promote, Dana Malstaff. So we tried to keep those people front and center. And over time, we'd play with it. And then also that free bonus we talked to you about, we found that people really liked the playbook. In fact, we tested it. 30% of the people opted in just for the playbook alone. So we thought we'd put that also as a feature. We have another landing page that's just about the playbook, that like get the free playbook and they get the summit for free. That converted about 30 to 70%. So we want to highlight as many things as possible. Again, if you're not one of those people who scroll, you'll be able to click as multiple times throughout the page. And then highlighting a little bit about the people. We didn't want to put all 40 because it became endless. So we have been testing this even over time, which people might be most interesting depending on the type of headline, things like that. Like one day I might be talking about Tim Ferriss on my podcast and then have Charlie Ho in there because he is, his first employee, and that kind of brings intrigue to people who are curious about the inside working of somebody who worked to help launch books for Ramit Sethi, Tucker Max. And so that's a real big hook for entrepreneurs. So we just kept playing with that. So this is it. We probably gave more information we need. Some people said, gosh, this was a lot. but other people really liked wanting to know all the details. So I think it just depends on your audience. So sometimes we think about we over delivered here and we have too much, but we didn't want them to not have the stuff they needed to say yes. And then lastly, I know they don't know, a lot of them don't know us. They're not our audience. So we put ourselves last. And then again, our social proof, who we are, our brands that we support, our companies. And yeah, so that's it. That's basically what we shared.
Can you go back up to the brands right there? Explain that a little bit more. These are the ones your support. So like, were you donating to them, or these are your companies?
Correct. These are our companies, or our brands, our podcast, our publishing company, our the challenge that we support. So we wanted them to be recognizable as brought to you by, because we weren't choosing to use sponsors. If we were using sponsored, we would put them here in place of ours. But we thought this summit should be sponsored by our other brands so we could unify them, so that we can tell everybody who used to be published with us, or I was their coach for something else, or they were in our academies, that this would kind of unite them.
Yeah, I love this. I think that this is important for a lot of our summit hosts. I know getting sponsors is an area a lot of summit hosts are worried about, or a lot of them don't even attempt to get sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool. You don't have to have sponsors on your summit at all. But I do think you should do something like this for two reasons. One, Azul, this is really powerful because one, it's social proof. Like they don't, for example, the audience doesn't know that Born to Write and Coach Azul are one and the same, or, are a link to the same person, but it makes the summit seem more powerful. It makes it seem more prestigious, as well as it's your summit. You should be promoting your stuff so that people are aware of it. I mean, we do this regularly in some of our one-day summits. In my health company, we will promote some of our certifications that we have, either different certifications than the topic it's on, but now they're aware of it. So I love that. Thank you very much for sharing and showing that with us. I want to ask a couple questions with that. Actually, it spurred my mind. So you mentioned, I love that you're constantly testing. So one, I want to get clarity on this during the summit, because most people are time limited and are a little bit overwhelmed with a lot of stuff going on. So thinking of, split testing, changing things out might seem overwhelming. However, there's a lot of power to that. So can you talk us through that? Because you've mentioned multiple times you're changing this out, testing that out. Were you doing it before the summit or waiting until after the summit? And now, what is your thought process of how and what you're testing?
Yeah. So we were doing some of it during pre-registration, testing it out, seeing which sort of titles, really was the titles we were testing. We weren't going to change a lot of the images because we knew that would change the design. So changing, those initial hooks, changing the order of the guests, swapping out some speakers for others. We were just trying those testing because that didn't take much work. It can be done in a minute, and you're basically sharing the same link. You're just testing it based on today at this hour we changed it. Is there any change in it? And yes, they're not perfect, but we wanted to see if it changed. Now that the summit has ended and it's now evergreen, one of the things we wanted to do is let's try changing more than one thing. Some of our guests said, what if you tried testing a landing page that was just the image of the speakers and a click here button with none of the other details? See, I know it seems like value, but what would happen if you did it? Oh yeah, that's something we could test. We could split test that, because that would be a really short page and it wouldn't be too hard. Maybe we could put just less information. So that's the things we're testing now. And that was true for the images of the playbook. People really wanted to see the people on the playbook. So we tried it without it, which is just putting playbook larger, but people didn't click on it as much as when they saw people. They want the social proof. They see people they know, like, and trust. And so then they want to go there. So if we played with more, it'd probably be including more images than less, and less words. I think that would probably be what we do, is what we tested in the future, is trying those things out, just to make sure that sometimes a one, above the fold landing page is what you need. And maybe even a video, because we did record. Pat Flynn agreed to record a video. We tested that, a video for his audience, drive traffic from his audience directly to a video that plays him saying, if you do anything today, sign up for the summit. It was like a 30-second promo. So when they're his people or people that know him, that made sense. If they didn't know him, they're like, who's this guy? Is this the host? They didn't make sense. So we we decided not to put there permanently. We just tested it with his audience to see if it made a difference.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
Yeah. No, this is such great insight and feedback. And I want to even circle back to one of the things you said when you were showing your landing page, whereas, like some of our audience doesn't realize, that this is virtual and it's not an in-person conference because they're very much used to like in-person conferences. So the importance of knowing who your audience or your avatar is and designing it for them. That was a very thoughtful a point that you put time and energy into understanding who they are and how to craft the message to them. And that's something all of us need to do when we're building out our summits, is who is our audience and what is the messaging. I know like in some niches, industries, long form copy on pages is very, very much, it's very powerful and very effective. Other audiences, other niches, short form, like you were just saying, Azul, like just an image or a video above the fold with a link can work. So really, really important. Know your audience. You're seeing a lot of different Summit homepages here, but at the end of the day, this will generate tons of ideas. Make sure you make it relevant to your audience. Now, I want to circle back to the aspect you were saying at the beginning where you had your summit where you're sending traffic to, but you also realized your playbook had a lot of value to it as well. So you actually ran that as its own lead magnet. So were you talk to us about that? Did you send all speaker traffic to the Summit homepage and run ads to the playbook? How did you divide that and how did you do it?
Yeah, we sent all speakers to the Summit page because we felt like that was the most clear and opportunity to highlight them. We tested the playbook with ads. We really just wanted to use it even as a follow-up. So if they paid attention to an ad or a video I did that was a minute long, we maybe retarget them with the playbook if they've already seen the landing page of the summit. So maybe just the idea like, I don't have time for a summit. Oh, playbook? Oh, yeah, I want the playbook. And they didn't scroll down far enough to see they got the playbook with the summit. So what we did is we just moved it at the top, and because getting a PDF playbook sounds like something you could do and think about later, as opposed to ours was time bound at the time. So if they weren't going to be available that day, they just thought that's too much time. So we just switched it. We realized a lot larger percentage, 30% of those people wanted the playbook versus the summit to access. And I'm like, So that we know that there are some people who really rather have the PDF download first before they decide if it's worth their while. So I think we would continue to drive traffic with revenue in those splits, like spend 30% of the value, the spend dollar in playbook and 70% on the summit page, because we know that that's where it was, and we'll keep testing that. But it seemed to be about pretty consistent where the conversions were happening.
Yeah, no, I really love that idea. I think that is excellent. Especially for those of you who are going to do paid ads or just as a follow-up in your email sequence to your audience, retargeting them with that playbook, I think is for sure a great strategy to do. And I love the playbooks. We do those with all of our summits because it's just engagement. It follows people along. Not everybody wants to sit through the videos. Like my partner, Dr. Krista, she doesn't watch video, but she'll read or listen to audio. So it's like, that's why you want to have the different components, even the transcripts, for example, which is why a lot of summits offer the transcripts, is because everybody has different learning methods or manners. Now, as we wrap this up, Azul, this has been phenomenal, first off, but I have one final question for you. With the summit, what would you say has been the largest or the biggest impact that has happened to you or that you've received from hosting this summit?
The relationships built from the speakers. That's how we built our business, that we realized that our relationships with the people that are on the summit are 10 times more valuable than even the summit itself, because those people, if they were wowed by the interview, if they felt like this was a stellar conversation, they'd be more than willing to partner with us on something in the future, or they'd be more than willing to introduce us to people in the future, because our products and services are for a premium brand, those are our ideal clients. So we wanted to treat them extremely well and follow up with them and provide them as much value as possible and not have too much expectation. The thing I would have done differently is don't expect those high-end speakers to do much for you. Make it easy for them to say yes, make it easy for them to promote, and don't give them too much details. I think we gave them way too much details. So if I were to do it again, I'd give them less to do, and just honor the fact that maybe you drive paid traffic to their summit day or something that helps them get exposure, not so much to ask them something to do.
Ooh, that is a great tip right there. Paid traffic to their summit day as a bonus for an anchor, a high-level influencer. That is a great, like dropping bombs right there, even at the end, Azul, all the way to the last moment. Well, this has been phenomenal. Go check out Azul. All his information's right here. Follow him, like his stuff on social. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you wanted to reach out to him. He's also been super generous to give us a special Summit Talks bonus, which you're going to see right below this video. Azul, you want to tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think probably most people now are curious about the playbook. Go get the playbook, peek into the summit. It's evergreen, so you can go in and look and watch, learn the things we give away. People love the MP3s. They love all the value. So go beg, borrow, and steal, see what's there. Go learn for yourself. That's how we all learn from each other. So I want to offer the playbook to you all so you can see what it is that we created for our summit.
Absolutely. Grab it now. It's right below. Get it. You're going to forget if you try and do it later. So grab it now. I know I'm going to be checking out that Summit Playbook. I always like to see inspiration from people who are crushing it like yourself. Azul, this has been phenomenal. Such great information. I really, really appreciate you taking your time, your energy, and your wisdom and sharing that with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's such a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you, Summit hosts, for hanging out with Azul and I. I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, your host here on Summit Talks. And remember, your message matters. And one of the most powerful ways to get that message out to the world is with a virtual summit. Also, don't forget to grab your Summit Super Pack, which includes your All Access Pass, my one-day Summit formula, and 6 months of the virtual summit software, plus some super special bonuses from our speaker sponsors and partners. But it's not going to be there forever. So go grab it now while you still can, and I'll see you on the next session.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.